Hola, hola. It's good to be here and see you here and live streaming on YouTube as well. And I will be recording. Hi, Vicky. I'm actually going to start on time. Hola, hola. Hi, everybody. Vicky, you're the one that's here. We're starting on time. We're going to go forward. And whoever's here and whoever gets to see this later on YouTube will be the ones who benefit from my sharing. And so please chat if you have questions, put the questions in, but first I'm going to do the presentation and allow what's to come forth to come forth. So I am Ayana Mojica, and I am in Oaxaca, Mexico. I've been here since July 2020, like right in the midst of the pandemic. And so I want to just begin with opening up with an invocation to the divine and opening up with an invocation to Lord Ganesha to clear blocks, hindrances, and obstacles, and inviting the blessings of my teacher, Dr. Pillai, and the blessings of our ancestors and the beautiful beings of light. So here we go. Om Gam Ganapate Namaha Nirbingam Guru Guru. Lord Ganesha, we thank you for clearing away all blocks, hindrances, and obstacles in our lives, clearing those blocks, hindrances, and obstacles from the past, the present, and future. Clearing blocks, hindrances, and obstacles seen and unseen, known and unknown. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Dr. Pillai, we ask for your blessings on this time as I share my mystical experiences here in Oaxaca. Om Dram Dattatreya Shiva Baba Guru Guru. Om Vitamitraya Namaha. Om Shri Sai Baba Namaha. Om Dattatreya Shiva Baba Guru Guru. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank you to our ancestors who are always from our highest and best. We invite you to be with us, to all the beautiful luminous beings of light. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And to those who are watching currently live and those who will watch later on. Thank you. So I wanted to share. Hi, Earl James. I want to share my experience with mystical Oaxaca. In 2019, I had a series of dreams. There were two different types of dreams. One was a recurring dream of las abuelas y abuelos llamándome, actually abuelas calling me from the mountains of Oaxaca. I could see their hands just calling and asking me to come, just come, come. And so I kept that dream in my mind, and I wasn't planning to come to Oaxaca when I did. And because of la pandemia, because of the pandemic, Oaxaca ended up being the place for me to land during la pandemia. I was only planning to be here 3 months. The second set of dreams, I'm not going to go into right now because they're still unfolding, but they had to do with Mayan, very advanced Mayan elders who welcomed me into their circle. So this recurring dream that I had in 2019 with the abuelas calling me to or from the mountains of Oaxaca stayed with me. And when I would do my morning prayers and meditations, I could see them calling me and I would respond. I said, okay, you want me to come, make it happen. Well, here it was, July 2020. And I was coming off of a trip because I had already left the USA. I had already been on my journey as a long-time digital nomad. And I had visited my island of Puerto Rico. I had visited the island of La República de Santo Domingo, because that's where my great-grandfather was from. Puerto Rico is where my other abuelas and abuelos and family are from, and still there. So I had just come off of that little pause, that little experience, and ended up again in San Diego. And I could hear Spirit say, this was February 2020, to be very aware of what was about to happen. So at the end of February 2020, as I was in San Diego, Encinitas, San Diego, I was really concerned because I can feel the agitation in the air, and I knew something was about to go down. And I knew that most people were not prepared for what was about to happen. So then, of course, March came and many of the countries closed down, locked down. Everybody thinks that all of them did, but they weren't. Not all of them were closed. Mexico was wide open, and some of the Scandinavian countries were open. However, the intensity of what I call psychological warfare that was happening in the States, especially in California, was so intense that I knew that I needed to get out. And I kept saying, I kept hearing that, get out. And I never saw that movie, Get Out. But I have to say this, I understand I understand the message in the movie now. So I had this like intense, like, get out and get out now. And so in July 2020, I got out and actually Oaxaca, Mexico chose me, because remember, I had that dream of what the abuelas calling me from las montañas. The grandmothers were calling me from the mountains of Oaxaca to come. I don't know if you get dreams, but if you do get dreams and they come true, chat it up. Tell me if you get dreams, because dreams are pretty potent. So I got out, I came, and when I came, I ended up immediately in a very favorable position. I immediately was renting a 5-bedroom, 3-bath home, $250 a month, all included except for the gas. Had to buy some gas and pay for electricity. But I had a garden, I had a fruit garden, I had rose garden, I cultivated herbs, I had security, and I had a very safe place to land. And it was beautiful because everything was quiet, and where I landed in Oaxaca is a very green area with las montañas. There's actually mountains here. I didn't know that this was the way it was going to be when I came. And so I'm like, oh my gosh, these mountains are beautiful. And because I know protocol, I dared not climb those mountains until I had permission from the energies, the guardians of the mountains, to climb. Now, I did a little bit of hiking here and there, but going up the mountains, that's a different thing. And it's important that we have followed the protocol. These mountains are living beings and they're guardians, and there's a lot of magical things happening and mysticism happening in these mountains. So I didn't go up, and I kept, calling out to the abuelas, you called me here, reveal yourself, invite me to your inner sanctum. I'm looking for you. You know I'm here. Now, open the door for me to go to the next step. I speak Spanish because of my own ancestry, Puerto Rican ancestry. I was born speaking Spanish, and I found here that there are a lot of people with my skin tone. And I also found that there were Afro-Mexicanos, Afro-descendientes. So they're Afro-Indigenous, Afro-Mexicano, and Afro-descendiente descendants that are here. So my color, my nose, my hair, and also because of the language, there was a familiarity. The indigenous here, the locals here in my pueblo, would look in my eyes and my face and ask me where I was from, and they were wondering if I was from the coast, where a lot of the Afro-descendientes are. And I could see, as I was walking my village, the pueblo aquí, when I was walking my village, I could see abuelas, I could see women, elders who looked like my grandmothers, some who looked very, very fair with too long braids, tied up here just like my grandmother did, and some who were darker, more melanated, who looked like my grandmother, who I always say I'm my grandmother's daughter. And I can see in the face of the men, the hardworking men, mi abuelos, I can see my grandfathers. So there was this familiarity in the food, the language, and the culture. Not every part of the culture, but there were a lot different aspects of the culture here that were familiar to me because of my grandmother, because she was raised in El Campo, because she was raised in the country. And I was right alongside with her when I was growing up. I was with my grandmother. So the mountains, so even though I had this familiarity and this beautiful connection to the herbs, the trees, being in El Campo, I knew that there was another invitation. And the invitation had to come from the abuelas, because they were the ones who called me. They were the ones who called me to the mountains of Oaxaca. But I wasn't climbing up there until the invitation came all the way through. Now, during the pandemic, most of these pueblos in Oaxaca, Mexico were closed. No one was going in and no one was coming out. Some of the pueblos maybe had one or two people coming down into the valley area to sell their herbs, their tinctures, and do some commerce that they had to do. But quite frankly, there was no one going in and out of these pueblos. And I had to wait. The waiting was worth it, because I'm going to share with you my experience, my mystical experience, going up into the mountains to meet Don Tiburcio and his wife, Dona Josephina. So I have a student who reached out to me and said, hey, I would like to visit Huautla de Jimenez, which is the birthplace of Maria Sabina. And Maria Sabina is the one who became famous for her healing and ceremony with what they call Los Niños, Los Hongos, these mushrooms that heal, these mushrooms that create a otherworldly consciousness. And you could look her up, Maria Sabina. So Huautla de Jimenez is a mountain known for these hongos and known for these ceremonies. Now, I personally, so I'm going to give you my personal experience and thought, I personally was not interested in ingesting any mushrooms. My medicine is cacao. My sacred medicine are the cacao beans and the living cacao for ceremony, for feeling really good, and for sacred medicine. So that's me. I'm I wasn't doing cannabis, nothing else. I've been offered to partake of ayahuasca from a shaman several times, and I had no desire and I had no calling. The cacao called me, and so I take that every day. And I also facilitate cacao ceremonies. And here's the thing, my loves. These plants are living. These plants are superior to any human being. These plants have codes and secrets and knowledge and energy. So when the cacao called me, and that's another dream I had, but it called me, I'm receiving the energy, the medicine, the secrets of the cacao and the cacao spirit, which is feminine, by the way. The same is with Los Hongos, the same is with, they call them Los Niños, the little children, the mushrooms. Those are plants. They have a code, they have a frequency, they have a knowledge, and they are here to benefit all of Earth and mankind. The same with cannabis. There's a code, there's a frequency, there's information, there's knowledge here as a medicine for mankind. The same with ayahuasca. Now, I'm not an authority on ayahuasca. I'm not an authority on any of these things except I'm learning cacao. And so I was like, okay, my student wanted to visit Huautla de Jimenez to be with Los Niños, the Hongos, the mushrooms. And one of the things I do here in Oaxaca is called private travel by design. Someone wants to have a specific experience or experiences, and I curate that for them. I make it happen, and I make it happen beautifully. So here's my student asking for this. And here's the other thing. I had someone else reach out, 2 women, both of them very powerful curanderas in themselves, both of them powerful shamanesses, both of them powerful priestesses. And they were both asking for the same thing at the same time. And I'm like, okay, I need to pay attention. Let me research this. Let me find out what this is about. Well, Huautla de Jimenez is 5 to 6 hour drive from where I live here in Oaxaca. In the center of Oaxaca, it's about a 7 hour drive. If you go by van, go by car, you can speed it up. It's about 5 hour drive. And it's in the mountains. It's through the mountains and through the desert. And I had never been there. So I had to find a guide who was from that area, Huautla de Jimenez, and find out what it was all about, find out what he offered. And I also have cultivated a relationship with an attorney who is the main counsel for 52 indigenous peoples here in Mexico. We've cultivated this relationship over a year. And for the last year, he has invited me 4 times to see a man who's called Don Tiburcio. And he was telling me that he lives way up in the mountain. Just to get to him, it's really out of the way. He never comes down from the mountain unless it's a very special assignment. And he and his family live up on this mountain, and they're indigenous of the Mazateco. Now, I didn't know all this. All I knew was my friend, the attorney, Jose Tomas, kept inviting me, to go have an experience with Los Hongos, the mushrooms. Now, I'm going to invite you to chat it up. If you have any questions, write them down, because I'm going to share this and then I'm going to answer the questions. So he invited me 4 times, and in my mind, I was like, what? I'm going to go eat mushrooms? What is that? It's a psychedelic thing, and you're going to get high. And I know a lot of tourists come to Oaxaca exactly for that, especially around September, because that's when there's a lot of these mushrooms in another area, and a lot of these mushrooms in Huautla de Jimenez. So I did my research. I saw, oh, shoot, I've got 2 people who want to experience this, and they're reaching out to me. I believe in divine synchronicity. Do you? I pay attention when the universe repeats. I trust my intuition, and I go with God. So here's these 2 women asking for this experience. Now, separate timing, the same experience. So I had two choices to go with the attorney, Jose Tomas, who I've known for a whole year. And that's another story that I want to share with you, but not today. Or I could go with another person who is actually from Huautla de Jimenez, who is indigenous himself. He speaks English and Mazateco, raised in it, knows everything of that area. So I had two choices. And what I did was ask my guest who she wanted to go with. She chose Jose Tomas. Now, here's the thing. Finally, I'm like, oh shoot, this is really going down. You know, I'm gonna take a guest. I'm making this happen for her. I could say no, forget it. No, it's not happening. But why? Why would I say no when I know that the abuelas de las montañas, the grandmothers of these mountains, have been calling me, and here's this door that's opening. So I reached out to Jose Tomas, the attorney, and I said, hey, I have someone who would like to experience Los Hongos and visit Don Tiburcio. I felt a calling to Don Tiburcio. The word Don, D-O-N, is an honorific title. That's an elder. That's someone who is honored. Don Tiburcio is in his late 70s. And I was told by Jose Tomas that he doesn't do tourism. He's so high up in the mountains, just to get to him is a non-tourist act, right? The tourists go to the easier places to experience what they want to experience. I said, hey, I have this, you know, can we arrange this? He tried to reach Don Tiburcio for several weeks. No answer. No answer. And then one day, my guest was coming, and I said, I got to find out, and this is really what you want. I got to really follow through and find out what can happen, what's possible. And the day after she arrived, Jose Tomas called me and said, Don Tiburcio reached out and he said, you can come. This was on a Saturday. He said, you can come, we can come on Monday. So that's 2 days. I'm like, what? So now I'm like, Ayana, you can either put up or shut up, right? Because now I've got to coordinate all this. I said yes. Finance it, get all the material, because here's the thing. You never, ever, ever approach a holy, sacred teacher, healer, curandera, wise man or woman without gifts. And we were to bring provisions. We were to bring pounds of rice and frijoles, beans and sugar. And that was going to be part of the tribute. That didn't even cover the actual trip or ceremony. So now I'm thinking, oh shoot, got one day to plan it and execute it. My whole body, my whole inner self was like, shoot, I gotta climb a mountain. The last time I climbed a mountain was the Alps. Actually, no, the last time I climbed the mountain was Mount Sinai. And I had a very painful descent. And so my body was like, oh, climb the mountain, because I knew it was high. it was a high mountain. I got to climb the mountain. I was recovering from a old dance injury on my knee. So I got to climb the mountain with a recovering knee. I also get, when I was in the Alps, I ended up with vertigo climbing the mountain, so I froze. And I believe I had a past life experience with climbing a mountain and falling because I was paralyzed. So my mouth said yes to going to climb this mountain to see this holy man. But my inner self, my inner child, my whole body was saying, what the heck are you doing? Have you ever experienced this? You know, you're about to go to the next edge, the next level, the next push in your consciousness, and you freeze, all this resistance comes up. That's what happened to me. I was thinking about everything. What about the money? What about the time? I've got to cancel my class because I teach class. I got to cancel my class. You know, all of these things came up. Yes, I see that, Vicki. All these thoughts and feelings came up. And I had to talk myself down. I said to myself, Mira, Ayana, during any part of this trip, if you feel uncomfortable, all you got to do is say, I feel uncomfortable and I'm not doing it, right? And here's the other thing. I was taking my guest to experience Los Hongos, to experience the ceremony. And my attorney friend, I mean, this is natural for them. So now I'm like, oh, and I'm taking the person to experience the Los Hongos. Are you going to have any? Have they called me? Have these Los Niños called me to get to know them? And inside I was like, okay, when I get there, I could decide yes or no. And what's the worst that could happen? I could fall off the mountain and die. You know, my leg could get worse. Or I could take the Hongos and die, right? So I'm not afraid of death at all. I've already faced death face to face. So I was able to get into that place and say, okay. And here's the other thing. I was thinking, man, we got to take pounds of these rice and beans and sugar, and we're going to hike up this mountain. I got to carry my part. Can I do it? I'm only 4'11", 110 pounds. I went, took my friend, and I have to say this, because I'm going to tell you what happened. And that was the backstory. It was the most beautiful, one of the most beautiful journeys, travel, pilgrimages that I have experienced. Oaxaca is beautiful. Every vegetation, because we went through 1, 2, 3, 4 different vegetation, very like areas of Mexico, of Oaxaca. Every one of them was beautiful. We went through the desert with cacti. We went through areas where there were waterfalls and water streaming. Went high up into the mountains, went to the city. 5-hour drive straight. That's a little tough, you know, it's tough. And if you have good companions to travel with, it makes it better. And I did. These were high vibrating people. So it took 5 hours to drive there. The stories I heard from Jose Tomas, the attorney, because he's indigenous, and the history of the areas and what was going on, and wow, all in Spanish. And we arrived at the main pueblo called Huautla de Jimenez. That's where all the tourists go to experience these hongos, to experience Los Niños, to experience the mushrooms. Way up in the mountain. But it wasn't, the journey wasn't complete. We parked the car. We bought more provision. So now I'm really concerned. I'm like, oh shoot, who's gonna carry? There's only 3 of us. I gotta carry my part. And we took a taxi. We hired a taxi to take us way up, 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 the most beautiful mountain. Pure, just, and the taxi could only go so far. And we had to get out and take all of our things. That's including our clothes, our backpacks, our water, the provisions. I had my stick to make sure my leg was stabilized. And we were at a place called Agua de los Ninos, water of the children. That's the little teeny, teeny, teeny pueblo I was in. And we hiked up higher and higher and higher. And guess what? All my fears gone. All of a sudden, this man jumps out of behind a rock. And he's there to carry our provisions, to carry my provisions. I'm like, oh, there's somebody going to carry the provisions. So there's no weight on my back. As I was hiking with Diego, that was the man, Diego and my other 2 companions, the areas that I felt tricky on my leg for the hiking, they helped me. Now there's lessons in this for everybody. That place where it's tough, there's someone there to help, but you gotta ask. I told them all, I said, look, I have this little situation going on with my mind because of past experiences. I'm kind of concerned about the hike. They knew. So we hiked and arrived at the peak of this mountain range, the top. And there was a very simple home of Don Tiburcio. Everything is in Spanish or Mazateco. Mazateco is one of the indigenous languages here. When I say that it's simple, most of the rooms were dirt floors. The area that you would call the bathroom was very, 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 very rustic. Clean, 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 and rustic, like rustic. The water was coming from the mountains. So that's the water we were washing with. The kitchen, rustic. So we approached, we had our flowers. We also have, offerings of flowers and brought our offerings. And there's Don Tiburcio, he's in the 70s, late 70s. And there's one of his sons, Diego, the one that helped us, and his grandson. But this house had on top of the bottom layer, had another level, because that's where the extended family lives. So we said our hellos and the greetings, everything's in Spanish, and I'm translating for my guest because she doesn't speak any Spanish at all. And then we were led to the temple room. Now the temple room had nice tile and a beautiful altar. And the room behind the temple room had beds, nice and neat and clean. I had no idea what to expect, but I was glad. The other thing I was concerned about with this trip was like, oh, I'm gonna have to sleep on the floor. I was told we would sleep on the floor. And I was concerned about that. And I was concerned about being cold. There were lots of beautiful wool blankets there, beautiful, comfortable beds. And everything still is rustic. When the time came for the ceremony, I was ready. I was ready. I have to put a little pause because I could hear something boiling. Yes, it was water boiling in the pot. So the time came for the ceremony. We were all dressed in white. All I can say is, I mean, there's so much to say about this, but one thing that's, so many things stand out, but one of the first things that stands out to me is this family union. They were following, I don't want to say traditions, the honoring of the elders, the passing down of the traditions and how to do things all the way down to the grandson. In that room was the Burcio, the elder, the eldest son, who is a psychologist, by the way. The eldest son, the next son, Diego, who was helping us with the hike, and the grandson. He's 8. And we were asked to count. They brought out all these cacao beans and this brown paper. The paper was cut up in a certain way. And we were to count 100 cacao beans and place them on this paper. So we were counting the cacao beans, 100, placed them on the paper. The papers, those were placed to the side. By the end of all the counting, each one of us in ceremony, there were 3 of us, had 800 cacao beans. 800 sacred cacao beans, prayed over, counted specifically for us. 800 for each person. It was, the papers were wrapped in a specific way because on top of the cacao beans went sacred herbs, including San Pedro, and a sacred egg. And I don't know what else went into it because I couldn't see everything. And it was folded a specific way. One of the sons was cutting yarn or string, a certain length, a certain amount of strings. The other one, the little grandson, he was part of helping with the counting. He was part of helping move things around as they do in their ceremonies. I'm telling you, the ceremony began before the ceremony began. And everything was in Spanish or Mazateco. And so I was translating. And we were asked to sit in these chairs in front of the altar. And the altar's like luscious with flowers, some of the flowers we brought, and the eggs and the cacao and the candles, and because there were special candles, and you know, the Hongos. I didn't see the mushrooms for a while. And Don Tiburcio began. Now I have to back up. I'm going to back this up because before the ceremony, we were invited to eat. I wasn't expecting a meal. We were invited to eat with the family in their very rustic, simple kitchen. And behind these men were these beautiful, sweet, gentle, kind women. There were three of them. One of them, I call her Dona Josephina. Her name is Josephina, and she's the wife of Don Tiburcio. She does not speak English or Spanish. She only speaks her Mazateco language. Her face was very unusual. It wasn't deformed. It was just unusual. It was an unusual face. Her hair was down, almost down to her feet, and two long black braids, not one single strand of gray. The elder, the matriarch, but simple, very, very simple, very kind of a gentle. Of our group, I was the only one who addressed her. And that's when I found out she didn't speak English or Spanish. But I honored her. And the men honored her. I loved watching how they put a chair on the side for her to make sure she was comfortable. And she was part of cooking that incredible meal that they served us. Simple, a simple meal. Probably the same food we brought, the provisions we brought. And as we're sitting around this table, and this conversation is happening in Spanish and part of it in Mazateco, these beautiful women in the background doing their kitchen magic, and hot tortillas that they had just made were just being placed in front of us. Oh my gosh. You know, when you have the eyes of a mystic, when you want to see the mystical presents itself. So this is my experience. The others didn't have this experience. So I had to backtrack to the women. When I went to their very, very simple rustic bathroom and I saw some, you know, kind of looked like stuff all around the toilet, you know, I was concerned not only for me, but I was concerned for anybody else that was going to use it. And, you know, I just went like that. And oh my gosh, one of the women who happened to be Don Tiburcio's daughter, the sweetest smile, came over. She said, oh, that's just the dogs who did that. And she cleaned it up. 1, 2, 3, clean that up. It was spotless. With such beautiful, loving, tender care. So the ceremony itself, everything was part of the ceremony. And up to that point, I was still a yes, but I could say no. But then Tiburcio said to me, the knee, he said, I'll just, when we're doing the ceremony, I'll put some San Pedro on it. It'll be, be cleaned up and cleared up. You'll be fine. So I believed it. I'm like, I'm here. I believe it. I trust it, and it's going to happen. And it did, by the way. The ceremony began before it began, and then it began further when the spiritual songs and chants, mostly prayers and songs, were being sung. And then Don Tiburcio was giving us instructions on, when you take the mushroom, when you take Los Hongos, let us know how you're feeling. You might feel this, you might feel that. We're here for you. We're here to serve you. Don't worry about anything. And when you're ready, go lay down. So that was the bed. And that whole entire time, he was checking in. But guess what? The music were the voices, the songs in Spanish and in Mazateco, the songs, the music, the prayers. And so my two companions, we received these mushrooms. They were big. They were like big mushrooms. I'm like, oh shoot, okay, what is this? Okay, let's see, Ayana, you're in an adventure. If you die from this, then you just die, right? And my friends took the mushrooms and they took one, and then they were like eating. They just ate it up. Both of them. And I've got this mushroom. I'm like, well, let me check this out. I have so many allergies. I have all these things going in my brain. Just take a little piece. I took a little piece. It was the sweetest. I was like surprised. I'm like, this stuff is sweet. And they're called Los Niños, the children. Sweet. I'm like, big. It was big. It was like that with a long stem. So everybody, the other two companions was like, Ayana, what are you waiting for? Just eat it. I said, I'm just letting it digest, take a little bit by a little bit. I'm glad I did it that way. And then Don Tiburcio is asking us the entire time, how are you feeling? And while he's doing that, he's cleansing. He's cleansing with the eggs. He's doing una limpia. He's cleansing. He's praying. He's taking us in. He begins to take it into the portal, because he's going to take us through this portal and lift us up into the celestial realms and make petitions, intercede for us. It was powerful. So the other two, my one companion, she was done with the one. She, like in 15 minutes, she tilted. She's like, ooh. She went like that, ooh, Ayana, and she went to lay down. She had an incredible journey of bliss. She dissolved into bliss. She flew with a couple of dragons, but she actually dissolved into bliss. And then my other companion, he wasn't feeling anything for a while. And so I took a second, I didn't feel anything for about half hour. And so I took a second one, eating it very slowly. The second one did it. And I can feel, a little shift. And so I told him I was going to lay down. My other companion, it took him six plus bitter herbs to feel the effect. And it's not so much about trying to get high or have an hallucinogenic journey. It's about the consciousness being shifted, clearing away the things, the mucky muck that will keep us from that divine experience of God. And through this journey, which lasted 6 hours, well, let's put it this way, it was more than 6 hours, but Don Tiburcio, his sons, they were singing not singing, yeah, they were singing this whole time. They were praying this whole time. They were calling our names. And I could hear my name being called after every song, after every prayer. Imagine someone of a high, pure level staying in front of the altar, calling your name to the gods and goddesses, to the saints, to the elementals, to God, I am that I am, for 6 hours. Who does that? I do it for about an hour or two for my clients. 6 hours of these pure prayers. And los Hongos, los Niños, the children are working. And I'm talking about me. I know a little bit of what was going on with the others, but I'm talking about me. Like all of a sudden, my joy bubbled up. I thought I was going to have a broken heart and have to cry. The others do that, go through crying and, all this healing. I had joy bubbling up from within me. My consciousness was so sweet. I could see flashes of brilliant gold flashing in the room. And we were in the dark, by the way. The joy high on that holy mountain with these holy men and women just unlocked the joy. And my conscience seeing beautiful lights and streams of energy. I remember seeing like a golden activation happen in my brain. And this joy, I was cracking up. And I was causing the other ones to crack up, that infectious laughter. And then about 11 o'clock, maybe about 10 o'clock in the night, now my eyes are closed and it's in the dark, I hear the voice of Dona Josephina. I thought it felt like she was right in the room. She was like in the room. I thought she was in the room. It's like she's in the room. I'm like, oh my God. And she was this pure, brilliant, luminous light streaming from her heart, and this unusual face. This face, it wasn't ugly, it wasn't distorted, it wasn't beautiful. It was just very unusual. And it's like, her face was so unusual that if she lived amongst normal people, they would probably bully her. So here's this, I'm in this experience. I can see her in the room. I can hear her singing with the men. And I found out after everything was over that she was never really in the room physically. And throughout the evening, I could hear Don Tiburcio and Diego, because some of the men went to sleep because they had to go to work the next day. I can hear them singing these holy songs in Spanish. And after each song, they would check in. Ayana, ¿cómo está? ¿Todo bien? Sí, todo está bien. Ayana, how you doing? Everything good? Yeah, everything's good. And then they would call the names of the other two. So they were always checking in. But I could hear my name. And I knew that they were taking my name, my essence, my soul to the threshold, through the portals of the divine on my behalf. I could hear these songs in Mazateco, these chants and songs I will never, ever know with my natural mind, the words to those songs. That's not one of my natural languages, but I began to tune in to the tunes, and I was repeating them. And after each one of those, Ayana, ¿todo bien? Everything good? Sí, todo bien. Because I was in the joy. I was like cracking up, right? Everything's good. And that went on for 6 hours. 12 midnight. Now get this, the 12 noon and 12 midnight, I found out, are the portals, the opening and closing of portals in this tradition. So 12 midnight, they asked, Ayana, ¿todo bien? Sí, todo está bien. Because I guess they thought I was the chief of this group. They were making sure everything was okay. Is it all right? Shall we leave the candle on? There was only one candle on. Should we leave the candle on or make it just dark? No, I said, make it dark. No, I said, just make it dark. It's okay, because we were in the dark. We were in our own journeys with beautiful, warm, long wool blankets. And by the way, the stream of the moon that was about to approach into fullness was coming through the one window. It was quite incredible. And then I'm seeing these golden lights, boom, golden flashes of light, and hearing the voice of Dona Josephina, the one with the unusual face. Everything, the songs, the chants ceased at 12. The men went and did what they do, because there's background work that happens with these ceremonies. It's not just what you're in. There are preparations, there are things going on behind the scenes. And so they went on. And wow, all I can say is like, wow. And here's the other thing. I was with 2 other companions who were at a high enough level, where all 3 of our spirits and energies were intermingling and doing something that's even higher. Because when you're in the presence of another, and especially for a while, like I was like, there's karma there. There's positive karma and there's negative karma. Now, we had a very positive experience, but there's things that are always being worked out in higher realms that you're not even aware of. I'm not aware, but I was very aware of this, that I was with 2 others in this journey at a very, very high level. They were working out their stuff, and there was like some beautiful deep healing, and I was working out my stuff through joy. And I'm like, and so throughout the night, after Don Tiburcio and Diego left, and the women are singing in the background that I could hear, now I'm asking them, ¿todo bien? Sí, todo bien. ¿Todo bien? Sí, todo bien. As they would get up and go to the bathroom in the middle of the night, and it's dark, and you're going into this very rustic bathroom. But it was so beautiful. It was so beautiful. See, los niños, los Hongos, the mushrooms, These particular ones, by the way, here's a miracle. It's not mushroom season. When Don Tiburcio said, come, he put the word out to the village, which is only probably less than several hundred, that he needed these Hongos. And it was a lot. We ended up with a lot of Hongos. I only took 2. My friend had 6, 7, 8. The other one had 1. And it was a leftover. And they were big. It was a miracle. They found Los Hongos. And they were delicious and sweet. And how it feels inside of me. Wow, soothing, just like an innocent child. 6 o'clock or sunrise, because I could hear the rooster, right? The roosters, 4, 5, 6, the roosters are crowing. The property was self-sustaining. It had a horse, it had roosters, dogs, and the whole family lived there. The rooster's crowing, and I could see the light coming through the window, more light. And, I got up and freshened myself. We slept in our clothes. But we're still in it. So Los Hongos, they say there's 3 waves of this experience. And we were expecting to get dressed, drink our water, use the bathroom, head out. And we were invited again to eat. And so we're in the rustic kitchen with the women, sweet women in the background doing their thing. I can see Dona Josephina in her physical form with her very unusual face. And they're doing their thing and serving us so beautifully. And the family, the men around the table, just this dialogue in Spanish and Mazateco and English, because I had to do the translating. And the food was delicious, simple, delicious, beautiful service. Before we ate, to complete the ceremony, he brought us in front of the altar again and did the final cleansing, because there was several of the cleansings. He took the packages, the paqueta, these were offerings. So the cacao beans, the 800 cacao beans per person, the egg and other herbs, I don't know what else was in there, all wrapped in this brown special paper and tied a special way. They were offerings. There were 8 of each of those. These were the energy of our payment, they call it. Payment to the divine, to the mountains, to Los Niños, to the Hongos, to the beings, to the fairies, to the elementals of that land. This was our, because we paid for it, actually with money, cash, to get all these things and have the service. They represented, there were 8 of them, they represented our payment for the blessings. And these would be taken, and they're probably already done, by Don Tiburcio. He was going to take them with our names on them and plant them, dig dirt, dig in certain places in the mountains. Wow. As an offering by these trees. We were each given an amulet. I'm going to take mine out here so you can see. Here I have, it's in a white bag. He didn't give us the white bag, but here's the amulet. inside. I have no idea what's in it. I don't need to know what's in it at this point. My curiosity might get to me. Maybe the next time I see him, I'll ask him if I can open it. I'm to carry this every day for protection and blessings. And then here I have a jaguar skin that was given to me. That's another story. So each of us received an amulet, un amuleto. That, in the exchange of the money, completed the ceremony. And then we were fed. And so we had to say, and it was a lot that was said, because I speak Spanish and English. I don't speak Mazateco, but because I speak Spanish and English, I was able to translate some of the things that Don Tiburcio was saying. I mean, my friends, my beloveds, this realm, and especially in Oaxaca, there's another world behind what you see. There's another realm behind the tourist things. There's even another realm behind, I live in a beautiful area with beautiful green and mountains. There's even a realm behind that. When I shared 3 minutes of my experience with one of my teachers, she said, and it stands out because the main thing that stands out to me is this Dona Josephina, this divine being, this Mazateco, this indigenous woman, simple. She's the one that stands out the most to me. She was in the room. She was singing, but her physical self wasn't there. I could see her radiant light coming through her face. That face was so unusual. The heart, I could see her. And my teacher told me this. She said, there are these divine beings in remote places who are streaming down the purity of light from the heavens, who are lifting up humanity, who are entering into these portals on our behalf. And she said to me, Ayana, because you could see, behind the form of this simple, beautiful woman with the unusual face, and I could see her light. She said, Ayana, that's telling us that you have reached that level where you can see that. And I still see her. When I take this amuleta out and I hold it, I'm connecting to the divine in her. I'm connecting to the prayers of Don Tiburcio and Diego. There's so much more to say about this experience. Whoever, if you're listening to this, let it pierce your heart and anything clouding the veils on your eyes so you can see, because there's something greater happening now here on planet Earth. I assure you of it. This is not just for me. When I hold this amulet, I'm reminded of Diego, who popped out from behind the rock to carry my things up the mountain. The provisions that I was concerned about carrying popped out. There he is, carrying them. Guardians of the divine. Key holders to the portals that allow us to go through. Allow us to go. And clear that stuff off of us, to clear that stuff off of us that keeps us from moving in that dimension and really seeing and knowing and being all that we are called to be. and in the sweetness of the journey that I experienced. Los Niños, these innocent children, the mushrooms, are beautiful, gentle teachers. They made corrections within my soul. They showed me things that I needed to see to take the next step. They showed me, they spoke the words I'm to speak to certain family members to bring greater healing. With sweetness, it's done. We completed our meal, went down that glorious mountain early in the morning. Agua de Ninos, water of the children. Got in the taxi. Taxi took us down the mountain another hour. Got the car back, journey back, another 5 hours. This time it was through like the heat of the desert. It was uncomfortable driving back. It was a long ride going, but I'll tell you one thing, it was worth it. What I experienced, the honor I had of meeting abuelos and abuela of my dreams. They're just a few of them that I've met that are calling me in my dreams. They were the beginning. So 10 days after experiencing Hongos or Los Niños or the mushrooms, there's 10 days that you have to be careful for. No sex, no drinking, nothing impure, and to stay with, because it's still working in our system, our consciousness. So for 10 days, I'm still in the 10 days. But there was such a powerful experience that I said, I got to get this documented. I've got to let people know that this is happening, because it wasn't just for me, it's for you. I encourage you, I'm live streaming this on YouTube. Please share, please comment, please thumbs up, please subscribe. I'll be sharing a lot more. I've got dozens and dozens of these kind of stories that I've just kept quiet because most people don't want to hear it. And, they think you're weird. I don't care if they think I'm weird right now. Weird is good. If you think weird is good, chat it up. Weird is good, because we just saw how our society and the world tilted, right? And it's us, we, weird ones, we mystics, we creators, we healers, we curanderos, we songwriters, we musicians, we dancers, we scientists, we forward thinkers, we mystics, we shapeshifters, we angels, we dragons, we with unusual faces, with the unusual faces. Woo! Yes, it's we. And so I want to encourage you also that if you ever want to have an experience like this, reach out, let me know. If you feel called to Oaxaca, I'm telling you, this is just one. I just had another thing going on here today, with a whole velario, a whole vigil that happened. And I can't tell you that story because wow, all I can say is wow. Oaxaca is awesome. If you feel called, come, reach out, let me know what you want to experience. And if you do want to experience Los Hongos, Los Niños, if you do want to be in the presence of these holy ones, reach out. Let's see what we can do for you, because I just have to say, I trust that the divine in you will know exactly where you need to be, with whom you need to be. And I want to encourage you in this, darlings. That edge, that place of resistance, like, no, I don't want to do that because that's too scary. Or, sometimes it's just our inner self that's so clever that keeps us from the thing that we really, 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 really want, and we know it's for our highest good. That thing, if you want to get past that, reach out. Reach out. So I'm going to take some questions now. That's my presentation. And thank you for everyone who showed up. I see you. I see you, Earl James. I see you, my beautiful sister Barbie, Jocelyn. I send my love and comfort to you during this time. I was holding vigil last night with another family here. So Melissa, I see you, and Vicky, I see you. And questions. I'm going to take questions now. Look at my chat it up. Hola, sí. Oh, most definitely. They just don't know. I'm staying weird, period. Okay, you're staying weird. Any questions? Anything? What's your takeaway from what I just shared? By the way, I'm still in it, as you can tell as I share. What's your takeaway? What are you going to do differently? You have information. Now, I can't see the chat in the YouTube, but I can see the chat on Zoom. You have a story. Before there was a written word, there was oral tradition. I'm going to be wrapping this up, but I want to give you a chance I'm way past the hour. But I want to give you a chance to ask questions. Before what was written, before there was internet, before there was Google, before it was the oral, it was the sound. And those sounds create. There was an oral tradition. The Mazateco, and many of the pure indigenous traditions all over the world. It's the stories. It's passed down. I'm the bridge. My takeaway is, wow, I had a dream about this. Yes, Vicky, I see that. Yeah. The dreams are potent. And we have to be really aware of what we're thinking and dreaming, be conscious about it. Because I walked right into my dream. Dream the dream that you want to dream. Because when you do, you step right into it. In fact, you're in your dream right now. Consciously or unconsciously, you're in your dream right now. And so it's important that we are conscious about our dreams. Yes, Vicky, I see you. That we can say more about dreams. Okay, so now I'm getting some chat. Say more about dreams from Earl. When do you know a dream is just a dream versus a message or solution being offered? So I want to say, okay, I'll say a little bit more dreams. Would you agree, Earl, yes or no, that there are multiple dimensions and realities? There's a multiverse, there are multiple realms. So if you believe that, anybody, if you believe that, yes, okay. So I got a yes from Earl. And would you agree that there are parallel worlds? So we got parallel worlds and dimensions and timelines. Yes And yes, okay. Ooh, I got a nice audience. Okay. So here's the thing. Yes, from Vicky. Don't know, Earl. Okay, so you don't know. And I didn't know it until I actually had, boom, it just like opened up because of where I am in my consciousness. When you study quantum physics, has anyone ever studied quantum physics, or have you kind of been curious about it or understand a little teeny about it? Quantum physics, science has proven that there are multiple times and dimensions and realities happening simultaneously. And a lot of it has to do, quantum physics is the boom.com. So look into quantum physics, and the film that's so much fun is What the Bleep Do You Know? What the Bleep Do You Know? Came out maybe 15 years ago, 20 years ago. Look it up. It's a very well done, cartoonish, like real people, like exploration into these multiple times and dimensions. Well, so with multiple times and dimensions, who's to tell what's a dream and what's not a dream? Who's to tell what's the reality and what's not the reality? And my audience seems to be mostly US. If we are in a reality, let's say like the US, that says we can only do this but not that, or we're in a family or in a culture that says it's only done this way, not that way, this way, only that way, then that's all we've got. Until the consciousness opens up, until the locks and chains, limitations have been dissolved from our minds and our subconscious and our reality. So then who's to know what's the dream and what's not the dream? There are yogic ways. My teacher, Dr. Pillai, is a Siddha master from the Tamil Siddha tradition. They do miracles all the time. And they do them through these, not only the practices, but these sounds. And the sounds dissolve. The sound waves dissolve certain constructs in our minds, in our thought patterns. My part of babies was in my dreams, said Vicky. And so these, and I'm assuming even like Mazateco sounds, because those were like sounds, that indigenous sounds, those chants, were also creating a dissolution of constructs that are really restrictive. They're very restrictive. And so we can train our minds, our consciousness, that when we rest our bodies, and the masters say that when we rest our bodies, our souls go and do something else. When we're resting our body, just before we rest our bodies, you can program your consciousness to solve solutions, to get answers, and to create a dream. You can train your mind and your consciousness to step into the dream you want, so that when you wake up, boom, you are walking right into that dream. There's a lot to say about dream. I've been studying dreams for a while. I have my teacher is a Siddha master. I've had teachers that go in and out of form and not only bilocate, but could be in several places at the same time at a high level. That's where I play. But Earl, that's a good, dreams. So what is your dream? So before I conclude here, and I'm not on YouTube, so I don't see a chat there, but before I conclude here, I encourage you to dream the dream that you want to dream. Dream it to the point where when you go to sleep, you step into that dream. And when you wake up, you step into the dream that you want to dream. My pleasure, Earl. It's pretty potent. And Earl, if you're in the area, let me know. My pleasure, Jocelyn. I share the story because I want you to know what's possible. I have heard so many stories. Believe me, I have heard stories that are true stories. People here who live this life, even close to where I'm at. Like what the elders, their stories of healing and shift shaping in the middle of the night and Aguas. It's real. And people don't realize that it's real because they don't have that reality. Remember, we have multiple points of reality. If we have this, we have just a box of what's possible. And, you know, the powers that be have told us that's it, and take away our magic, then that's it. But when you become very aware and alive to the world you really live in, woo! I send you my love. Thank you, friends. Share, like, comment, subscribe, and let me know when you come in Oaxaca, Mexico, and you would like to experience a little bit taste of what I am experiencing. This is just a little tidbit. I have so many other things and experiences here just in less than 2 years. I bless you. I bless you on this as we're entering the equinox energy. Mwah. Besitos. Ciao.